And I had forgotten about ROTC, but they said you have to take ROTC, because, and I had to because it was Line Grant College. They had no choice. Well, it ended up, I took the test, passed the test, got into Illinois, went to school there, and on my, in my sophomore year, I guess it was, no, my first year, it was my first year, at the U of I, everything was going on fine. I joined Farmhouse, did a bunch of other good stuff, but the one thing I couldn't control was what was happening at home. I get the call late in the evening, and Dad said, "Jimmy, I just wanted to let you know it's not don't hurry, but come on home because Mom wants to talk. She wants to talk to you." And I did it. I said, "Dad, I'll hop in the car and come right now." And he said, No. He said, "Don't come. It's late. It's dark at night. It's rainy weather. You'll have a crash and you make it worse. Come in the morning when you can see." I said, "Okay." So I got up early, got up there, drove up to the house, and opened it, and saw my brother open the door. And when I saw him open that door, and it was too late. The one good thing I could have done for her, I couldn't do. And I couldn't do it. And I tried everything I could, so I quit school. I walked off. I left the courses halfway through the first semester and went back to Wisconsin to do nothing. And I stayed out of school for half a semester, and I finally thought, that's stupid. You're smarter than that. You don't have to. So I went back and with my teachers, and I had 3 teachers that I had to take had final exam tests. And I went to them and I said, each of them, I said, if I study and everything else and come back and take that, will you at least let me take your final exam? All 3 of them said yes. One of them said, you got the highest score in the class. And I was playing catch up over 6 months' work, and whatever the case may be. But I got away with it just because somebody was looking out over me. I thought, well, I'm going to graduate. And they said, well, you got to pass the physical. I took the physical, and they said, okay, we're going to send you to flying training. And they came back and said, whoops, we made a mistake. Your eyes are so bad you can't fly. You can't be a pilot. And you can't. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, you can't be a pilot. You can do anything else you want. You can't be a pilot. And I thought, well, there goes a good career, because I thought that piloting might have been a little bit of fun, which I'll come back to again too. But doing that, I found out that I had to stop from going to summer camp if I wanted to be commissioned, because commissioning was done at the summer camp. That meant I missed the last month of my Air Force ROTC schools at U of I. And so when that happened, all the other stuff they meant, well, I can't fly. What am I going to do? And I said, well, I'm just going to do it. So I said, okay, that's fine. I don't care. So they said, you commission me with honors and press on. And my whole philosophy of life with the military was, the people I knew said, well, don't ever volunteer for anything. Don't ever volunteer. I was the king of the volunteers. I volunteered for everything because I was used to working 24 hours. Probably the best assignment I ever had, as far as this did. But what was good about it is the case where I was not a record keeper. I didn't write down when something happened or when I got 5 hours or anything. I didn't do it. I spent all my time doing the job. When I was a second lieutenant, on my first assignment, I was in a squadron flying in RC-121 Gs and for airborne early warning for the United States Air Force. And so I could do that with no problem at all because of all the things that I had going on for me. But it didn't always come out to work the way it should have, because I should have probably crashed a few times. But I was always very fortunate about things that went on. I remember going in the back of the aircraft, looking at all these 20 or 50-gallon drums here, and this stuff's, the liquid is sloshing around. I have leukemia. Pure and simple, we were hauling them all over them. And those missions, we were flying up and down the Ho Chi Minh Trail, and it was always at night, because that's why we flew at night, because they could travel at night, and they couldn't travel during the day. In the daytime, we had it covered because we could bomb and do anything we wanted. Well, I remember we dropped flares at about 1,800 feet, I think it is, and from our airplanes, it lit up like a house of fire. And so we didn't worry too much about it. We got shot at. We could look at it, but normally you could look and say, well, it looks like those are 37 millimeters, so they're not so bad. They don't. The VC don't have much to do with them. They're not going to. But if they're shooting 50, if they're shooting another one, we would have been hit. But whenever we had an advantage, we were up there making this place light up like daylight, and they're on the ground trying to hide. And so whenever we saw them, we told the aircraft, we had fighters, bombers, everything where our overhead cover, to come down and say, I mean, we could tell them there's fire over here at this spot and give them the location, and they'd go over and kill them or wipe it out. And so we didn't have too much trouble. We lost some airplanes later, but wasn't on them any, obviously, when they were lost. But one of the missions was to go from Tetzercow. I'm stepping out of bounds a little bit, so I got to be careful. We flew from Japan to Naha, Okinawa, to Southeast Asia to go on a blind bat mission. So the first one mission, we came down and we'd flown missions, gone back, flown missions. At that time, they had kept us to 15 hours or 15 days. If you got more than 15 days, you had credit for a full tour. So you didn't want to do that. Otherwise, you couldn't go home for another tour. I went for 5 days one time when we were in Vietnam and didn't get mail. And Ruth and I each wrote every day. And I didn't get any mail. Didn't get mail. Didn't get mail. Didn't get mail. We didn't worry too much. The mail was slow normally because of the getting into combat zone. She said, I'm sorry that I didn't write the last few days. And I wrote back and said, what do you mean? What she didn't say, and at first, and then later she made it, she had had a bicycle accident with her oldest daughter on the back end, and she wasn't going to let that baby fall off, so she saved the baby. And when she did, she lived with her chest and with her face, and broke off 5 teeth. And she writes to me and says, I'm sorry I didn't write. They told us we couldn't carry weapons because we were flying troop carrier. We would write to them. So we didn't have any weapons. We couldn't do anything to do. Got to Da Nang. We checked into the billet. Ate our dinner at the mess hall, and the base was under attack. And they parked our aircraft when we flew the missions out of Da Nang. They parked our aircraft out at the far end of the flight line, always out the far end, because we took off in day and night to land it or whatever, something. Anyway, what happened was we did that, and we got down to Da Nang, and we heard this firing, and we know the base is being overrun. The VC are shooting at the south end of the runway, which is exactly where our airplanes were. Our airplanes were the ones they were after. The one that I was in had only one bullet that went through his briefcase. The other one, the other flare, hit the bottom of the. We carried a sheet metal metal barrier on the floor, and so that if somebody shot up, they couldn't hit us. So we found out that we couldn't do anything because we didn't have any guns. They're not going to go out there and run around and wave your arms. We played the safety and played cards. Well, they're going pop, pop. We knew what they were. They got our airplane. They downed it. The next day, they put us back on an airplane, sent us home. I had so many chances to do things. Always. I ended up volunteering and having a good time. But I put my whole heart into it, and I guess that was what made the difference, because somehow or other I always got to go where others weren't going. And I just thought, work as hard as you can, do the best you can, And if they've done it, if they bombed it out, fix it and do it, start it again. When I came back from Japan, I said to them, before I came back, I'd like the ROTC assignment. And I extended for a year in Japan. And I ended up getting an ROTC assignment, but not as the instructor, not as anything else. I got it. I was in charge at St. Louis University. I got this with the assignment. I walk in, they say, okay, you're an ROTC and you're instructor here now, and you're the boss. I mean, what do you want? I said, I'm not the boss. And they got 3 people that outrank me. I think. I said, what is it? He said, well, you're in charge of the flight program. Now, the Air Force pilot, the flight program means you got to fly, and you have to have a private license. I have never even, once I was told that I didn't have the eyes for it. I said that it's a failure, there's no sense of fighting it, just don't do it. So I didn't fly either, but I decided, I got there, I said, walked in and said, what's my job? He said, you're in charge of the flight education program in addition to being an instructor. I said, I can't do that, I don't have a pilot's license. And they said, you can do that. You were the boss of the flying program, and I didn't have a license. And they said, that's the way it is. And I said, I can't do that. I can't tell those kids how to do something that I can't do myself. So I ended up quickly, University of St. Louis had airplanes at Parks College. And I went over to Parks College, and I said, I want to go through for it. Met some friends and a few people that gave me instruction. And I checked out at minimum time, and I got a pilot's license. So now I felt like at least I'm not doing any less than they're doing. If I can't do it and they can, it's my fault. And they said, we have an assignment for you. I said, what do you mean? They said, well, we have an assignment from you. I said, what are you talking about? They said, well, we want you to be a comptroller. I said, what's a comptroller do? And they said, well, you don't have a choice. You have to do this. You're going to be a comptroller. And I said, no, I don't want that, but I don't know what I can do about it. About the second day after the list of promotions came out, I discovered that people somewhere made a terrible mistake. They made me a commander. They made me a colonel. And I'd given up. I was starting to look, what other paths can I follow? We were reorganizing, so we took over every audio-visual unit in Europe, for example, worldwide. I could go anywhere I wanted to as a commander. And I didn't use it, but it was but those are the kinds of things that fell in for me. And I did nothing to deserve it other than to just try hard. We had, I have to tell you this, we had people that were in audio-visual. We did the aerial shots for the movie Top Gun. Did you ever see it?
Yes.
We did the aerial shots. We put airplanes up, and it was like that. The Navy called us and asked us to do underwater work for us. This is the Air Force. That's how good the people were. MOWW was very patriotic, and that's why I joined them. And so I walked in California. I walked into a meeting one day in the afternoon, having an MOWW meeting, and they said, "What do you need?" You know, I just got to walk in uniform and so forth. I said, "Well, I wanted to join." And they said, "Well, nobody's ever walked in and asked to join." I said, "I know what you did for our junior ROTC, so I want to tell you that I want to belong." Well, I ended up in getting involved. When I came back, I realized that there was another organization called the Military Order of the World Wars. And I joined them, and we had many years of good time together. All of the awards you see, the most important one of all to me is the Military Order of the Sword, Order of the Sword, and the reason is it's given by the enlisted troops for the officer corps or the rest of the corps, and no strings attached. So I treasured that. Where this state has a law that says every 5th grader is supposed to have flag education. My question to them was, when I was told, I said, "Well, who's doing it?" I said, we don't know. I said, who's got the materials? Well, you got to go down to Edford to get them. And I said, well, what do you have to do? And he said, you know as much as we know. So I went down and found out that there was an organization, an EDVA, and the law had been passed and meant that fifth graders should have fifth grade, and somebody had to present. Well, I checked all the rules and laws and regs and so forth and said, okay, that's fine, we can meet all of those. We can meet. You don't have to be anybody as long as you're patriotic and you're correct. So I've taught thousands of kids flag education, and I would do it all over again.